Hello, everybody. Today we're going to have a brief overview of the different types of alert codes you can receive via the EU Hub and from the NMVSs. So just to give you a brief summary, you've got the A1, product code unknown, the A2, batch ID unknown, the A3, unknown serial number, the A24, and the A7, which is when you attempt to decommission, but the pack has already been decommissioned, the A52, which is an expiry date mismatch, the A68, which is the batch ID mismatch, and the A71 notification, which is the batch data distribution failure. So in order to reflect the data of these alerts, the following structure applies to each of the alert categories: the root causes, which have been identified, and the preventive actions which are or shall be undertaken. Every new input related to the root causes and preventive actions will be indicated in bold. The list of root causes per alert is non-exhaustive. So we've already seen the different alert categories. So let's get right into it. The A1, the product code unknown. The root causes of this is when the product code has not been uploaded to the EMVS. This is when an OBP has not uploaded the product master data, or which we will call PMD, to the EU Hub. This can also happen if on the data matrix code, the product code on the data matrix code has not been uploaded to the EU Hub. And this can also happen when the product code creation does not match the coding requirements of the national system. So the scenarios which you can imagine that can be caused by end users that raise the A1s is when a pack is scanned, but the pack product code is not part of the FMD. So let's say, for example, the over-the-counter medication or Indian product codes, anything that doesn't exist in the EU Hub environment will raise the A1 because it's unknown. Another issue that can occur is end user scanner software, which doesn't scan correctly. Could be an alphanumeric glitch or character recognition issues from the scanner, which then leads to the product code unknown error being raised. Another possibility is if the end user manually tries to decommission the pack, but when they manually add the product code, it was done incorrectly. And also when end users are testing without being aware of the product code's upload to the EU Hub, it can also raise the A1. So the actions on the NMVO sides towards OBPs when this happens, the NMVOs will contact OBPs to advise them that this data is missing, it has not been uploaded. They'll ask the OBP to know if it was meant to be uploaded. They'll also have a list of all the protocols that are not meant to be uploaded. This way, they're able to ask the OBP if the product which raised the product code unknown is meant to be on that list or not. The same thing for Indian products. Once again, NMVOs have a list of all products that are in the supply chain that are not meant to be part of the FMD. And together with the NCAs, they make sure that MAH data uploads to the EU Hub are correct for legacy packs. The NMVOs have developed an automated alert system to flag batches, creating a high number of alerts in order to reach out to the relevant MAHs. This way they can see the root cause if the OBP informs them that the product code is not meant to be part of the FMD. The actions taken by the NMVOs towards end users is that they'll educate end users on which products fall under the scope of the FMD and which don't. There's also an automated process to check product codes against the legacy pack list. In the case of Indian packs, no alerts are raised. They will also educate end users on how to set up their scanning tools correctly. They are aware that a lot of alerts are raised due to the end user misconfiguration of their scanning tool. The actions taken by EMVO. EMVO would then inform OBPs to advise them that the alert that they're getting is because data is missing in the EU hub. There's also the improvement of intermarket transactions, IMT. Change requests are defined for alerts related to Indian packs. And there's also the relaying of educational material and guidance to end users. In the end, EMVO is just trying to ensure a reduction of alerts raised because of this A1 product code unknown. The next one on the list now will be the A2, the batch ID unknown. This can happen from an OBP perspective when the correct batch was not uploaded. Legacy packs or packs distributed under Article 126A. This can happen also when an element of the data matrix code on the batch field was not done correctly, which means there have been separators and there's a mismatch between the information on the data matrix code and the EU hub. This can also happen when an OBP with Indian packs uses a GTIN, which they will later use for serialized packs, which then causes the same alert when the master data is uploaded using that GTIN. Basically, it means that if an OBP uploads data from Indian packs, but then also uploads data for normal packs using the same master data, this would also raise A2 batch ID unknown. This can also occur when OBPs do not perform the corrective retrospective upload with their tool. So sometimes OBPs, they just will create a new version number instead of correcting a previous version to upload a batch. And in that scenario, it can also lead to A2 batch ID unknown. And the last one we have here would be the transactions misuse for training and test purposes in production. So that basically means when an OBP is performing testing activity in production environment. This is a big no-no because in the production environment, we only deal with real data and testing is strictly not allowed. So for the A2 caused by end users, this can occur when an end user with their tool sends the wrong batch ID information, which then creates a mismatch with the data on the data matrix code. And the mismatch between the data sent by the end user and what's in the data matrix code would raise the A2. The decoding software of the end user was unable to correctly interpret the group separator characters, or the scanner was incorrectly configured. Incorrect reading of uppercase, lowercase characters due to end user software scanning misconfiguration. Incorrect manual entry by the end user, and incorrect scanning procedure, the batch number being incomplete or the linear barcode attached to the batch number, both not having the correct data there, will also lead to A2s. Once again, we're rehashing the scanner misconfiguration due to the action being done at a very fast pace. Some scanners are sensitive to being used at a rapid pace, which would then create the A2 batch ID unknown because by default, these scanning tools will just send an interpretation rather than the correct information if done too fast. And once again, this can also be done by end users if they try to do testing in the productive environment. The actions undertaken by the NMVOs towards OBPs, NMVOs will contact OBPs to advise them on the missing data. They'll advise them or confirm with them the date of the release of the batch. This way, this is going to set the OBP to perform the corrective actions. They'll highlight the necessity for OBP to perform the retrospective upload for products released before the 9th of February 2019. And they'll collaborate with the MHs and IT suppliers to make sure that all the data that's being uploaded matches what they have in their systems. The actions taken by NMVOs towards end users, they'll contact the end users and their suppliers for them to correct the scanning misconfiguration. They'll implement ad hoc solutions for end user scanning testing and validation. They'll educate end users regarding FMD scope and scanning best practices. They'll send them weekly reports with those observations, and they will investigate incidents through their incident management portal. The actions taken by EMVO. EMVO has provided guidance to the intention of end users through the IT suppliers and NVOs related to the scanning configuration and the European PAC coding guidelines. EMVO also relays the information about scanning testing and validation solutions implemented by Zappos and private suppliers. The next alert we have here is the A3, unknown serial number. So this can happen when the OBP performs an incomplete upload, which basically means they uploaded a batch, but the serial number that raised the A3 was not uploaded in that batch upload, or they didn't upload the correct serial numbers. And so they will think that they've done it. And when the physical pack is scanned, it goes to the database of the NMVO, and then the system indicates that that serial number doesn't exist. This can also happen when an element of the data matrix code appears in the serial number field because of group separators that have not been set properly. This can also occur when OBPs perform a pack state update, which reaches the NMVS before the pack state change has been completed. And then this would generate alerts. That basically means an OBP is trying to perform a decommissioning action on a pack, but they've assumed that the pack has already been uploaded, which it has not been. And there's also the misuse of bulk verification of packs by OBPs. This is when OBPs perform mass verification of packs, which increases the likelihood that on the list of packs they're verifying, there could be one or more serial numbers that have not been uploaded to the NMVS. The A3 caused by end users. This can happen when the end user software sends the wrong serial number, which is not a match with the data that's on the data matrix code. This can also happen when the end user software was unable to correctly interpret the separator characters, or the scanner was incorrectly configured. This can also occur if the end user manually inputs the wrong serial number combination, or this can also happen once again with the scanning issue wherein the batch number wasn't complete in the scanning action and the linear barcode attached to the batch number wasn't correct. Actions undertaken by NMVOs towards OBPs. They'll reach out to OBPs to advise them on the missing data. They'll also contact the MAH and the IT suppliers. The actions they'll take towards the end users. They'll contact the end users and their suppliers to urge them to solve their scanning issues. They'll also implement ad hoc solutions for end user scanners, testing and validation. They'll educate end users regarding best practices with scanning tools and send them weekly reports with the observations, and investigate incidents through their incident management portal. The actions taken by EMVO. EMVO will relay the information about scanning, testing, and validation solutions implemented by Zappos and private suppliers. The next alerts we'll be looking at are the A24 and the A7. So this occurs when OBPs attempt to decommission a pack that has already been decommissioned. So the correct action normally is that before an OBP decommissions a pack, they should verify the status of that pack. This way, when they do a decommissioning, they'll know if that pack can be decommissioned. So a pack can be decommissioned if it's in the active status. Let's say if an OBP attempts to decommission a pack that has been set to sample, and they set it to, they want to decommission it from active to sample, because they didn't do the verification, they didn't know that the pack was already in sample status, the alert would be raised. The other cause by an OBP for these alerts are when an OBP performs a batch update on an already distributed set of packs. This can also be caused by the system setting. So timestamps, related issues in the IMT, and also on the product pack state update multi-market pack synchronization. So if packs were uploaded to a new market and in their original market, they were already in a decommission status, if an action is performed on a pack in the new market and it's already been noted as decommissioned, this would trigger the alert. These alerts, as caused by end users, This can happen when an end user attempts to decommission a pack that's already been decommissioned. This is what we call a double dispense. This can also occur when an end user fails to perform the undo operation. So some decommission statuses can be quote unquote undone after a maximum period of 10 days. Sometimes it can happen when a decommissioning status is done after that period, and after those 10 days, for those certain decommissioning statuses, those packs are permanently in that decommission status and the alert is raised. Both the system dispense and the manual dispense operation are performed for the same pack and the same customer. Pack can be decommissioned both in central filing and local pharmacies. The end user performs a destroy operation for a pack that has already been dispensed and which is already inactive in the EMVS. An end user performs a destroy operation for an expired pack, and there could be a software bug too, and there could also be errors that led to the resending of the request. In some cases, some gateway provider tools or direct connections, there was a glitch and an automated resend of the request occurs, which would then raise the alert because the initial request was successful. The actions undertaken by the NMVOs towards OBPs, they'll verify with the MEH if there is not another root cause of the alert. They'll collaborate with parallel traders and IT suppliers to see why these alerts were raised by them. Once again, the corrective action is to verify before decommissioning to avoid these alerts being raised. This way, one is aware of the status before going for decommissioning. The actions taken by the NMVOs towards end users, they'll reach out to the end users to advise them on the correct process. They'll educate end users regarding the scanning best practices with reports of their observations. They'll test the software systems. They'll also collaborate with end users and their suppliers and investigate incidents through their incident management portal. The actions undertaken by EMVO, they'll relay the educational material and guidance to end users, and they'll assess the means to improve system interoperability. This is more focused on the issues mentioned earlier on with the timestamp issue for IMT. The next alert we have here is the A52, the expiry date mismatch. This can be caused by OBPs when the wrong expiry date was uploaded, meaning that the data uploaded in the hub is different from the data encoded in the data matrix. So let's say if the OBP uploads a batch where the expiry date is February 2023, and on the data matrix of the actual pack, it says February 2024. That's when you get an A52. And it can also happen when the data matrix code appears in the product code field because of group separators that were not set correctly. This can also be caused by the system if there's an inconsistent expiry date interpretation between the national system. This is usually linked to the interpretation of the last day of the month. Some do it with 00, some do it with 31. The main objective here is that the data on the pack and the data on the EU hub should match. If the expiry dates match on both the physical pack and on the EU hub, then the A52 won't be raised. This can be caused by end users when the end user software sends wrong expiry date information. This can also happen if the incorrect manual entry of the expiry date was done by the end user. Actions undertaken by NMVOs towards OBP, they'll reach out to OBPs to advise them about the wrong information. They'll also collaborate with the MEH and the IT suppliers. They'll give guidance to the end users suppliers and also educate them with the scanning best practices. They'll analyze the alert patterns for software or scanning issues and communicate the issue to the respective IT provider. And they'll also investigate these incidents through their incident management portal. The actions undertaken by EMVO, expiry date mismatch letter of announcement was issued on the 8th of April. EMVO advises OBPs on how to proceed with the correction of data. For our expertise, we can explain how this is done via the EMVO gateway, though this should be, in theory, something that's possible through all gateway providers. This is an important function to correct incorrect information. And EMVO also relays educational material and guidance to end users. The next alert we have on the list is the A68 batch ID mismatch. This is caused by OBPs when the wrong batch ID was uploaded, meaning there's a mismatch between the batch ID on the EU hub and the batch ID as indicated in the data matrix of the physical pack. This can also occur when the data matrix code appears in the product code field and the group separators have not been set correctly. This can be caused by the system if there's an inconsistent interpretation of the batch ID by the different national systems. It can also be caused by end users if their software sends the wrong batch ID information. Once again, with spelling issues, sometimes they can have configuration issues where they incorrectly interpret the data on the data matrix code. End users can also cause this alert if they incorrectly input the batch ID manually. The actions taken by the NMVOs is that they'll reach out to the OBPs to advise them about the missing or incorrect data, and they'll confirm with them the date of the release of the batch to help them see where the issue is. And they'll also collaborate with the IT suppliers. The actions taken by NMVOs with the end users, they'll reach out to the end users and their suppliers to solve their scanning issues. They'll implement ad hoc solutions for end user scanning, testing, and validation, and they'll educate end users regarding scanning best practices. The actions taken by EMVO, EMVO has circulated guidance to the intention of the end users through the IT suppliers and NMVOs related to scanner configuration and European pack coding guidelines. They've relayed the information about scanner testing and validation solutions implemented by Zapad and private suppliers. The last alert on our list is the A71, which is the batch data distribution failure. This can be caused by OBP when an incomplete retrospective upload has been done. So imagine an OBP has added a new market to a product master data version, but they forgot or did not re-upload all the PPDs or batch uploads, which they did for the first market to the new market. Now, when this happens, the EU hub might forward transactions to a market where the PPD was never uploaded. So the A71 comes up to indicate to the OBP that before adding a new batch, they've got to populate the new market with all the batches that have already been uploaded in the initial market or market. This way, all the markets are aligned with the amount of batches they have. It can also, the A71 can also be caused by the system. So when a batch upload or a PPD upload failed and the OBP uploads the batch upload, but the distribution fails for one of the markets, the A71 batch data distribution failure is flagged. And then at this point, OBPs have to re-upload the PPD to avoid having multiple packs unsynchronized. Because in the end, the goal is for all the markets to have the same batches aligned. Actions taken by EMVO. EMVO has circulated guidance to the intention of end users to the IT suppliers. EMVO also advises OBPs on how to proceed with the correction of data, and EMVO has also relayed educational material and guidance. This concludes our quick review of all the alerts that might be causing confusion sometimes, and note that we are always available if you have further questions.